Welcome to the Lakers Highlights Today channel. Before we get to the news, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Now, let's get to the Lakers news.
Hey there, Lakers fans. Get ready because we are going to dive deep into one of the most fascinating and complex stories of this offseason, a narrative that could extend into next summer and has the potential to completely redefine our future in the paint. I'm talking about Walker Kessler, the young and promising 7'0" center from the Utah Jazz, who has been on Rob Pelinka's and the front office's radar for months, sparking heated discussions in the halls of Crypto.com Arena. You certainly remember the desperate and painful chase for a starting center throughout last season. It was a saga that kept us awake for months, especially after Anthony Davis was traded, leaving an absolutely gigantic hole in our paint. It felt like we were playing basketball with only 4 players on the floor every time we needed an interior presence. Initially, it's worth remembering the organization had practically finalized all details with Mark Williams, and we were all already imagining what it would be like to have that defensive talent wearing our purple and gold. But then the unexpected happened. They changed their minds at the very last minute, literally in the final hours before making the deal official. It was like having the rug pulled out from under us, leaving a painful gap that was only finally filled this offseason with the arrival of Deandre Ayton. But even with Ayton now on the roster, the organization hasn't stopped monitoring the market, especially when it comes to young talents with long-term growth potential. And that's exactly where Walker Kessler comes into our story. The story with Kessler is far from over, and in fact, it may just be starting to get really interesting. Tony Jones, a highly respected journalist from The Athletic and one of the most reliable voices when it comes to accurate NBA information, has brought news that could literally change our entire strategic outlook for the coming years. According to Jones, the Utah Jazz made a financially calculated decision, but one that could open unimaginable doors for us. They consciously decided not to offer a rookie extension to Walker Kessler this summer. For those unfamiliar with the complexities of the NBA's salary system, this means something extremely important and potentially game-changing for our plans. Kessler will become a restricted free agent in the 2026 offseason. Now let me explain exactly why this is so significant and why we must pay full attention to this development. When a player becomes a restricted free agent, his current team retains the right to match any offer he receives on the market. But that doesn't mean it's always easy or financially viable to do so. It's a complex chess game where timing, salary structure, and cap flexibility make all the difference. The Jazz's strategy is absolutely transparent and purely financial, and Danny Ainge isn't even trying to hide his intentions. They desperately want to maintain maximum salary cap flexibility to climb out of the NBA's basement as early as next summer. This is a franchise tired of rebuilding and eager to return to contention as quickly as possible. By keeping Kessler without an immediate extension, they gain an important tactical advantage. They limit his potential cap hit to $14.9 million next season, which gives them substantial room for big moves in free agency. It's a risky move because they're essentially betting they can keep him without the security of a long-term deal, but it's also a move that could open opportunities for other strategically minded teams. Utah has been working methodically toward this all summer. You noticed how they traded players like Colin Sexton and John Collins, right? That was no coincidence. They flipped those heavier contracts for draft capital and expiring deals, deliberately creating cap space. It's a complete organizational cleanup, a total payroll restructuring with a clear goal, having money available for big moves. Now, and this is where it gets really exciting for all of us in Lakers Nation, our financial situation for 2026 is aligning in a way that could be absolutely perfect for a serious push at Walker Kessler. The numbers don't lie, and when we look at our salary projections, the picture is promising. The Lakers will also have impressive cap flexibility in 2026. After finalizing Luka Doncic's extension, we'll only have 5 active players on the roster with guaranteed contracts. 5 players. Let that sink in for a moment. That means we'll have colossal space to build a competitive roster around our established stars. And there's more. Austin Reaves, one of our most precious discoveries in recent years, will most likely decline his $14.9 million player option for 2026-27. Why would he do that? Because with the averages he's been putting up, he can easily land a much bigger contract in free agency. It's an obvious financial decision for him, but one that also indirectly benefits us by freeing even more cap space. Running conservative numbers, our projection indicates we'll have approximately $111 $5 million available for the 2026-27 season. To put that into perspective, that's enough money to make extremely competitive offers for practically any player on the market, including Walker Kessler himself. Speaking of numbers and stats, let's break down exactly what Walker Kessler represents as a player and why he's generated so much interest not just from our organization, but from several others around the league. This isn't a case of hype without substance. The numbers fully support the excitement. At 24 years old, Kessler is entering what many consider the most crucial developmental period for a basketball player. Last season, he averaged numbers that make any basketball executive stop and take notice. 11, 1 points, 12, 2 rebounds, and an impressive 4 blocks per game. But the stat that really stands out is his field goal percentage. 66.3%. 66.3%. Do you understand what that means? That puts Kessler among the most efficient finishers in the league. He's not just occupying space in the paint, he's converting his opportunities at an elite rate. That's exactly the kind of efficiency our offense needs, especially considering how many forced shots we missed last season. But Kessler isn't just a finisher. His defensive presence is something we haven't had consistently in years. Those 4 blocks per game don't tell the full story of his defensive impact. He alters shots just by being in the paint, forces opponents to rethink their drives, and provides the interior defensive anchor that was sorely missing from our previous campaign. And we're still talking about a 24-year-old. In the modern NBA, that means he's only just beginning to reach his peak. Most centers hit their prime between 26 and 30 years old, which means we'd be getting Kessler at the ideal moment for sustained growth and long-term impact. But now we reach the obstacle preventing any immediate move. And this is where the situation becomes frustrating for all of us who would like to see Kessler in Los Angeles as soon as possible. Danny Ainge, the veteran Jazz executive who has shown in the past he isn't afraid to ask for astronomical prices, has set demands that are simply impossible to accept right now. According to reliable Lakers daily sources, which have proven accurate with inside information over the years, Utah is demanding nothing less than Austin Reaves plus 2 first-round picks for any deal involving Walker Kessler. Let me repeat that to make it crystal clear. Austin Reaves, our third best player, plus 2 first-round picks. It's a price that borders on absurd when considering the full context of the situation. We're talking about giving up a player who has become essential to our offensive system, has proven chemistry with Luka Doncic, and is still on an upward developmental curve, plus sacrificing our future draft capital for a player who, promising as he is, has yet to prove he's a championship piece. Austin Reaves isn't just a stat line, with averages of 20, 2 points, 4, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists per game. He has established himself as a reliable force on both ends of the floor. But beyond the numbers, there's chemistry and dependability. Reaves knows our system, has the trust of the coach and teammates, and represents the kind of stability that's hard to replace. What Danny Ainge is essentially asking is for us to mortgage not only our present, but also our future, for a player who may be special, but still carries question marks. That's the kind of demand you'd make for an established all-star caliber player, not for a young talent with potential. Rob Pelinka, who has shown throughout his tenure as GM a calculated and strategic approach, has demonstrated a willingness to make significant moves this season. He's not averse to big trades when they make sense strategically and financially. But there's a fundamental difference between being aggressive and being reckless. Pelinka understands we have Deandre Ayton now, a former #1 overall pick preparing for a comeback and personal proving season. Ayton isn't just a temporary placeholder. He's a talented player who can solve our immediate problems in the paint. That gives us the luxury of not needing to make a desperate trade or pay an inflated price for another center. The organization's current philosophy seems clear. We won't mortgage our future unless it's for a truly transformative opportunity. And while Kessler is an excellent player with great potential, he doesn't yet qualify as the kind of transformative opportunity that would justify giving up Reaves and multiple draft picks. This patient approach may frustrate some fans who want to see immediate action, but it's exactly the kind of executive discipline that builds lasting dynasties. Great organizations know when to pull the trigger and when to hold fire for a better opportunity. Our current situation puts us in a really interesting and potentially advantageous long-term strategic position. We have Deandre Ayton locked in for this season. which means there's no organizational desperation to make a risky trade or pay a premium price for another center. That stability gives us leverage. If Danny Ainge and the Jazz stick to their exorbitant and unrealistic demands, Rob Pelinka can simply wait and watch how the situation develops. Patience, in this case, may be our greatest ally and most powerful weapon. We're not on the clock, we're not desperate, and we don't need to solve an urgent problem. In fact, waiting could become a winning strategy for several reasons. First, the Jazz's demands may drop if they can't find a trade partner willing to pay the current price. Second, Kessler's performance during the season could either raise or lower his perceived value. Third, other opportunities could arise that are more attractive and realistic. But the most important point is that waiting until 2026 could put us in a much stronger position to acquire Kessler without sacrificing valuable assets like Austin Reaves. It's an approach that requires patience but could result in a win-win situation for our organization. Looking specifically at the 2026 offseason, the competitive dynamics could be completely different and much more favorable to our interests. As a restricted free agent, Walker Kessler and the Utah Jazz will have to navigate a complex negotiation process that involves not only his personal preferences, but also the economic realities of multiple interested organizations. The Jazz will have the right to match any offer Kessler receives, true, but will also have substantial cap flexibility to make an extremely competitive and strategically structured offer. This is where the experience and creativity of our executive team can make all the difference. The key to a successful 2026 strategy will be crafting an offer that's financially attractive to Kessler, but structurally difficult for the Jazz to match. This could involve backloaded contracts, performance-based bonuses, or incentives that significantly complicate Utah's payroll. For example, we could structure a deal that starts with a more modest salary in the first years but scales dramatically in later ones. Or we could include substantial bonuses based on individual and team achievements that would force the Jazz to commit much more of their cap than initially planned. We also need to consider the broader competitive context. By 2026, Utah could be in a completely different situation. They may succeed in their rebuild and not want to compromise flexibility by matching a big offer, or they may fail in their goals and be back in rebuild mode, making it less likely they invest heavily in one player. Obviously, all this strategic planning for 2026 fundamentally depends on how our current season unfolds and what decisions the organization makes in the coming months. If leadership decides to sacrifice future cap flexibility to make aggressive moves and contend for a title immediately, our financial situation for 2026 could change dramatically. This is a real and legitimate consideration. LeBron James isn't getting any younger, and there's always the natural pressure to maximize championship windows while they're open. If the chance arises to acquire a truly differentiating piece that could make us immediate title favorites, the organization could justify compromising some of our future plans. But here's what's interesting about our current situation. We have both short-term and long-term flexibility. We can be aggressive now if the right opportunity arises, or we can be patient and execute a long-term strategy. It's a position of strength, not weakness. The coming season will be crucial to determining which path we take. If Luka Doncic and the current roster show they can compete at the highest level, that may influence the organization to be more conservative with future resources. If it becomes clear we need significant upgrades to be true contenders, that could accelerate our decision-making timeline. And we can't forget there are other variables completely outside our control: injuries, changes in the free agent market, trades around the league. All these factors could influence our decisions and opportunities. For now, while all these variables play out and the future landscape takes shape, Walker Kessler remains in Utah, continuing his development and solidifying himself as one of the league's best and most promising young defensive centers. He's playing in an environment that allows him to grow without the immediate pressure of championship expectations, which could be beneficial for his long-term development. At 24, Kessler not only has time on his side but also the opportunity to keep refining his skills and expanding his game. Each additional season of NBA experience makes him a more valuable asset and more complete player. When he finally comes to Los Angeles, whether through an unexpected trade or as a free agent in 2026, he'll be a more mature and developed player. We as an organization also have time on our side in this particular situation. Our patient and strategic approach allows us to watch his development evaluate how he adapts to different game situations, and more precisely determine how he'd fit into our system and culture. This isn't a situation where we need to act out of impulse or fear of missing out. Walker Kessler represents an opportunity, not an urgent necessity. We have Deandre Ayton to address our immediate needs in the paint, and we have a clear plan for how to approach Kessler in the future if he continues developing as expected. Strategic patience is often the difference between organizations that build sustainable success and those that make desperate moves that compromise their future. We're clearly following the first path, and that should give all of us confidence about the franchise's direction. The saga of Walker Kessler and the Lakers is far from having a defined ending, and in fact, the most interesting and decisive chapters are yet to be written. This is a story that will unfold over multiple seasons, with plot twists, unexpected developments, and opportunities we can't fully predict yet. As fans of the greatest franchise in the NBA, we have the privilege of watching our organization operate with the sophistication and strategic patience that separates true contenders from teams making reactionary moves. Rob Pelinka and his team are playing three-dimensional chess while other organizations are playing checkers. In the coming months and years, we'll follow every development of this story: how Kessler continues developing in Utah, how our salary situation evolves, what other opportunities arise in the market, and how our current roster performs when it really matters, in the playoffs. NBA basketball is a game of timing, and the timing for a move involving Walker Kessler may simply not be now. But when the timing is right, when the numbers make sense, and when the opportunity aligns with our long-term strategic goals, we'll be in a position to act decisively and intelligently. Until then, we'll keep monitoring, planning, and preparing to capitalize when the right moment arrives. Because one thing is certain in the NBA: strategic patience combined with substantial resources and a well-run organization usually results in successes that seem inevitable in hindsight, but were actually carefully built over years of smart planning. The story of Walker Kessler and the Lakers continues to develop, and as always, we'll be here following and analyzing every development, every rumor, every move that can influence this fascinating narrative that has the potential to define the future of our paint and our pursuit of more championships for the city of Los Angeles. Looking to the immediate horizon, there are specific milestones we should all watch to understand how this situation evolves. The 2024-25 season will be revealing for both the Lakers and Walker Kessler, and developments on both sides will directly influence future possibilities. For Walker Kessler in Utah, expect to see a season of accelerated growth. Without the security of a signed extension, he'll play with the added motivation of proving his market value. The Jazz, in turn, will want to maximize his development to eventually justify matching any outside offer. This means more responsibilities, more minutes in crucial situations, and opportunities to showcase aspects of his game we haven't fully seen yet. Specifically, watch if Kessler can expand his offensive repertoire beyond lobs and finishes near the rim. Any development in mid-range shooting or passing from the high post would exponentially increase his market value and our eventual need to have him on the roster. On the Lakers side, this season will be key in defining our strategic urgency. If Deandre Ayton reestablishes himself as a reliable center and our current roster shows playoff contending ability, that will give us even more leverage to wait until 2026. But if significant weaknesses in the paint become clear, the pressure to make a move before the February deadline could rise. Austin Reaves' performance will also be crucial. If he continues his upward trajectory and firmly establishes himself as a central piece of our future, it will make it even harder to justify including him in any trade package. On the other hand, any stagnation could alter the organization's calculations. Also expect subtle front office moves during the season. Rob Pelinka will keep making inquiries, holding informal talks, and positioning the organization for opportunities that may arise. The NBA trade market is fluid, and unexpected situations can create openings that don't exist today. The real question isn't whether Walker Kessler will remain a Lakers target, but when and under what conditions a union will make sense for both sides. The ideal scenario remains 2026, but basketball teaches us we must be ready for unexpected opportunities that could accelerate or completely alter our plans. Speaking about this situation with the objectivity it deserves, the Lakers' position is enviable. We have a clear plan, the resources to execute it, and the organizational discipline not to make impulsive moves that could compromise our future. The refusal to accept the Jazz's exorbitant demands demonstrates executive maturity. Austin Reaves plus 2 first-round picks for Walker Kessler is the kind of trade desperate organizations make, not champions building for sustainability. Our patient approach may not generate the sensational headlines some fans want, but it builds the solid foundation that results in multiple titles. Walker,